Well, I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal. People know me. I'm very important. I have many leather-bound books, and my apartment smells like Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond.
Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. They're also thriving each and every day. Kind of stumbled over my lunch and the words there. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. Today on Thrive Loud, we have the CEO of Wendell, a coaching company that focuses in the area of mindset and health. He's a former professional athlete, a former CEO of Granite Games, Factory Fitness, and Factory Forged. That's like alliteration to a whole new level. Thrive Loud listeners, John Swanson. John, how you doing today?
Doing absolutely amazing. How are you?
John's coming to us from central Minnesota, as he described to me on the phone here, and has a really cool story, has a great company, and we're going to get right into it. John, let's rewind a little bit. How long did you play hockey professionally? That's your sport, correct?
Yeah, I think it was 3 years. I tore my ACL when I was in Europe, and I tore it in playoffs. So I kind of was forced with the decision of I could take a year off, rehab it, or really scratch the entrepreneurial itch, which prior to that, I'd already actually launched a couple of businesses, but I was full-time hockey player, part-time entrepreneur. And I was like, I remember thinking to myself, at the age of 35, would you be further along as an entrepreneur or as a professional athlete? And so I said, you know what, I'm going to use this time to transition into what I think is going to be an amazing next chapter. So 3 years professionally, and then I made the jump.
You had a whole slew of companies that you've been involved with. Tell me, as an entrepreneur, what gets you up each day? Like, obviously, you loved playing your sport when you did it. Did you find running businesses, did that competitive nature or that way that you've been brought up in the life of an athlete, is that carried over as a business person?
Yes, I can't think of a better training ground for being an entrepreneur than playing sport, because sport is all about how to lose and show up the next day and get better. I always tell the story that I played hockey for 23 years of my life, and I never actually walked away with the ring. Like, sure, I'd won tournaments and things of that nature, but never actually hoisted the cup. And so you think about sport is a whole bunch of losses with some micro victories sprinkled in, and you continue to show up every day because you love it. And I think entrepreneurship, if you're coming for any other reason than you're on a mission and you have a strong purpose, I think you're going to get pushed out pretty quickly.
I think that's actually a great statement of life, right? Like, everyone's always focused on hearing about the victories, but we have more failures each and every day, right? Those losses, the noise that nobody really hears about. You've shifted this into not just the businesses that you've helped set up, but now you've shifted it, as I mentioned, into a company that's about mindset and health. How did that move happen to creating Wendell?
So it really goes back to probably my childhood of, I did not grow up, like, my father passed away. My grandfather passed away. My wife's father passed away before I was able to meet him. And so there's a pretty strong, we'll call it, motivation to be healthy and present as a father, and then hopefully as a grandfather. And so when I got into business at 25 full time, you're basically doing everything you can to get the company off the ground. And you can go to school as much as you want, but until you're in the trenches, you have no idea. And so I was lucky to get a handful of companies up and off the ground, but I did it without understanding prioritization. So I think it was around 2018, by all accords, we were smashingly successful, but I was super unhappy. I felt like I was failing as a father, as a husband. My own personal health wasn't great. And I remember saying to my wife, standing in the mirror, like, I used to be a professional athlete. Like, what is going on? And so that was when I kind of made the stride forward that I was going to sell all the companies and hit the restart button and take everything I've learned of how to build a company, but also work in other things. And so when we work with our clients now, we talk about mind and body are number one priority. The second one is your significant relationship, and third is family, or excuse me, fourth is family. The fifth one is career. And so I challenge a lot of CEOs that I coach is like, look, let's make your company generate more revenue, but let's also make sure we generate more impact. And let's make sure you have the freedom to live the life that you want and prioritize what really matters, which is your mind, your body, your marriage, and your family time. And so it's taking a much more, like, we don't just coach the company, but rather we make sure that the company stands for something that goes beyond just the business.
What type of companies are you helping today?
So our sweet spot is working with coaches and consultants that want to, I think, grow and scale in the online space. And we focus on marketing, we focus on sales, we focus a lot on the customer experience and creating what we call flywheel momentum. And we leverage a lot of that with systems and structure. So SaaS, we do a lot of SaaS work. We build out custom SaaS systems, but the other side is how to leverage that. Really, everything centered around the customer experience and how to make that world class. Because I believe if your product is hands down really, really great, it makes marketing simple, and makes sales simple, and it makes your delivery system simple.
What's the reason that the companies who you help and help them to better understand that prioritization, what's the biggest hurdle that they're facing today? What's the thing that's holding them back from incredible success that you see in your coaching sessions with them?
I think the number one thing is that they do not have a delivery system to deliver the product in a way that's truly transformational, but in a way that it scales. And so they might have a great product, but it requires so much bandwidth that it rips them away from taking care of their mind and body, their family time, their relationship time. And so they start to feel as if they own a job, not they own a company, which is kind of how some of our companies got started, where everything was so dependent on me. And it was great because I was really talented at what I did, but I was missing out on putting my kids to bed or picking them up for school, or just a lot of things. Sometimes you could be physically present, but you're not mentally present. And so I think that would be probably the biggest bottleneck. And then the way we solve that is by restructuring their marketing system, their sales system, their delivery system, and then leveraging software and technology to scale it.
So this is interesting, John. You position the company as a coaching company that is about getting your mind, health, body, family priorities first in line. Oh, by the way, the action item, the takeaway that we have is we're also going to deploy the system that's most applicable for your business.
100%.
So this is an interesting angle because this is combining the I don't want to say it's the flavor right now of something that's so important because we know that our mindset is so key to how we succeed. But you've packaged this into a software solution, if you would, or the answers that they might need. I'm imagining that it's really you're labeling Wendell as a coaching company, but I want to be fair here. You're coaching them to bring them to the next level, but you're really providing them with consulting services underneath it. True?
100%.
Okay. So in pitching Wendell, this is different. This is not everybody's leading this way. A lot of people say they're coaching companies, and the first thing they think about is, hey, you're going to elevate my people. You're going to work on their mindset. You're going to help make them optimize what they do best, maybe get them out of a rut, maybe get them back on the right track, get them thriving. But you've built this underneath and say, hey, it isn't just about this, that we have a whole solution behind it. This combination of the two, can you share with the listeners how that merger came to be?
Yeah. So there's just this whole kind of build-up process of me playing at a professional level. It requires you to go to work every day on just yourself. And so if you look at a really great company, the foundation is the product. So if you want to, we talk about building the flywheel. The flywheel is the components of what you're going to deliver and how you deliver it. But that delivery system and that the speed at which the flywheel can spin is predicated on the how solid your team is. And so we handle it in a couple of ways. We are building out their systems and procedures and their SaaS, but then we pair it by leveling their people up. So everybody that comes into our coaching program, we actually start them with what we call the modern day CEO. And that is working on mindset. We actually teach them nutrition. We talk about fitness. We talk about heart rate monitors, really actually making the human healthier.
Mm-hmm.
And then we break down and rip apart the business. So it's kind of a yin and the yang,
Mm-hmm.
what is more important, your people or your system? I think they're both quintessential. And I think that's the only way you scale your company. And so we talk about this even in our own culture, is we don't have sick days. We force our staff to take wellness days. We encourage them to work out. Our company shuts down at 11:30 every day for 1.5 hours. Everybody works out, and we will support that and champion that, because I think modern day companies, it's not about pay. I think money is so easy to be made. It's what type of culture and environment are you creating? And the other day, we had a doctor step away from practicing because of the clinic she was at. She didn't feel inspired. She didn't feel like they were championing the right mission. And she came to work for us, which is, crazy to think that lateral move. But she's like, I'm proud of what you guys stand for. I want to be a part of that culture. So I think there's a couple major facets. And one of the things we talk a lot about is power and certainty. And power and certainty is doing the daily work that is required to be done. And that's on a home front. That is at a company level. That's even a level where just pure enjoyment. Then there's the culture. How do you support your community? And then the final one is the acquiring of the skills to fill the gaps so you can make your company better. And so we work on all three of those, and we take a very holistic approach. And probably I pull from 15 years on nutrition and sports performance and optimization. I've coached NHL and professional athletes all the way down to grandparents and high-level CEOs. So we're kind of pulling my health and wellness background into business coaching, into SaaS, to create a really different style of business, but one that is kind of catching like wildfire, because I think everybody wants to make more money, but when you challenge them to be a better dad and say, look, you can go get another 100K this month, but what if we put some boundaries in and actually work on your home life? And you start to speak to them at a level that they don't even realize that's a problem. And it's because I was there. I was the dad that, left for work at 5 a.m. and got home at 8 p.m. and I missed a lot of those early years. And so I will challenge our students. It's not about the money. It's about how much impact are we making? How much profit are you generating? But do you have the freedom to be the man or the woman you want to be? And it's finding that ultra balance to create that company that embodies that.
John, can you share with the listeners what you shared with me, the name of the company and where it comes from and what its value is all about to you?
So I see a lot of times when, entrepreneurs build a couple companies and they sell them, and then they launch the John Swanson Consulting. And to me, that just doesn't mesh with my background. It doesn't mesh with how I was raised as a hockey player and just my family dynamic. And so I kind of thought long and hard. And my grandfather was a Navy pilot, shot down twice in World War II, I believe. And his first name is Wendell. And so I was like, you know what? I want to create something that's on my father's side. I wanted to create something that kind of embodied this trailblazing mentality, which is one of our core values. So the company got named Wendell Coe. And it was kind of weird at first because, all my other companies had, different names, and for people to start saying, I'm a part of Wendell and be proud of that. And, I'm a trailblazer and understand the definition of what that means. It's kind of cool to see something that didn't exist a year ago be really powerful to a lot of individuals.
John, working through the pandemic, how has that been for those that are on your staff at Wendell? How have you been able to utilize this time to better connect to your customers?
Well, the pandemic has forced, I think, business to level up in a decade's worth in 1 year. I've used Zoom now since it basically came on live, right? So my old consulting company, Factory Forge, which we sold off, that's what we were using. So pre-pandemic, we had ran our company as if it was in a pandemic. I think the biggest thing is we're really, really big that you still have to get the team together once a year. There's just something special about having dinner together and those dynamics. But I do find that the work from home or work remote, if you train them, which we spend a lot of time on productivity training, time blocking, and creating efficiencies, allows us to be extremely competitive when we hire, because they can work from home. There's a lot of benefits to that. They get to control their schedule. And we actually just train them on how to be successful in that new environment. And I think a lot of companies are struggling with their staff because they're working from home, but what is required for that thing to function is you have to teach them how to be disciplined and prioritize and create what we call boundaries so that they can get what is required done. We find that our staff is way more efficient, but it also came off the back of them going through our modern day CEO training.
Like it. I love asking guests this question. I love asking coaches this question. We're all kicking on all cylinders most of the time, but we all have those days when we're not quite on our A game. John, when you have trouble thriving, who or what practice do you personally seek to get yourself back on the thriving track?
When things feel off, there's something that we teach, which is own it. It's actually one of our core things inside of modern day CEO. Own it is a 6-stage process. First stage is something happens in your day that is an event. So stage 1 is an event. Stage 2 is a trigger, which releases an emotion. Stage 3 is what we call storytelling. At this point, we've completely derailed ourselves. We're telling stories around what just happened to justify the emotional victim mentality that we were feeling. The 4th stage is a new level, which people do not normally get into. And that is what we'll call ABC. So it's awareness, breath, and choice. At stage 4, it's your ability to realize what are the facts. And you move out of an emotional state and you move into a logical state. You ask yourself, how do I get back on track with my goals and my agenda of the day? What can I control? What are the facts? Stage 5 is action. And stage 6 is another one, which I call revolution, evolution. And that is to have a revelation, which is to reflect and learn, and then create the revolution, which is how do I not repeat the 6 stages again? And so you ask the question, how do I pull myself out of it? Is the first thing is to realize that I'm in that victim storytelling mentality. And then I have to create space to think. So a lot of times I'll go for a walk and leave my phone behind. And a lot of times I find if I go for a 10, 15-minute walk, I'm able to be aware, breathe, and then think logically. And that'll get me back on track. Part of that is really understanding there's only so much we can control. So what are the facts and how do I get back on track with our goals? So that's the practice. Not only do I use, but we teach that. We call it the own it. And then the sub tools are ABC, awareness, breath, choice. And then we call it the 3 R's, which is reflect, revelation, revolution, which creates the evolution so that we break out of that cycle.
John, let's do this. Let's do the admin part of the show. Share with the listeners all the places people could find you, websites, URLs, things that are on the calendar coming forward, anything you want. We'll put it in the show notes, but it always gets more engagement when they hear it from you.
Absolutely. Come hang out with me on Instagram. So John W. Swanson. W stands for Wendell, which is my middle name. Our website is wendellcoe.com. It's in the process of its beta launch, so that's totally fun. We're going to be kicking off a little retreat. We're going to do down in Cabo. We rented out a really amazing villa, private chef, crazy experience. We got 10 total guests that'll come in, and we're going to do a true mastermind. And we're going to use the format give, ask. And so you have to present for 30 minutes on a topic that you're world class at, and then you get advice for 30 minutes from your peers. And then we're going to do a whole bunch of experience-based things. And so that is our first, what I would call public event. We have lots of private events that we constantly host, but those are typically for our current clients. We're going to Minneapolis. We'll be back in Scottsdale. We just got back from Vegas. So we do lots of, we'll call them private masterminds, but the public one is in Cabo, and that'll be in early December.
You had me at Cabo.
Right?
Who wouldn't? John, because my goal is to get you to smile more. Would you like to go down Fun Street with me here on Thrive Loud?
Absolutely.
All right. Share with the listeners a movie that you love to rewatch or one of your favorites that's in your brain that always kind of gets you going.
So the one that is probably most recent would be Wolf of Wall Street. We were running Trailblazing Coaching at the time. It was a company that my wife and I had, and we were coaching essentially, busy moms to kind of regain their health and their power and certainty. And I had a bunch of people reach out to me to get coaching from them, and I kept turning them down. And I was like, no, I'm not, I don't want to coach. I'm retired. I sold that company off, and I watched the movie Wolf of Wall Street. And it inspired me to just go after being a bigger version of myself. And I think hockey taught you to be humble, which I think humble is a very dangerous thing to be in. And I think what we need to do is be timely of our surroundings. And sometimes you need to talk about all the great things that are happening. And sometimes you need to be quiet and just listen. So knowing your environment is really important. And I mix that up with being humble. And so Wolf of Wall Street always gives me a great laugh. It is definitely not a work family type movie, but it got me to play a little bigger than how I was playing. And all the years, all the knowledge, I kept always looking at, I think, a lot of my weaknesses, as we all do as entrepreneurs. And that got me to say, you know what, I'm just going to see what would happen. And I'm very grateful that I watched that movie and just went for it.
I got an opportunity to be on the same event as Jordan and the real life Jordan from that movie. And yeah, about 85% of what they captured in that movie is exactly who he is. It's quite interesting, actually. Kind of an interesting guy, but pretty fascinating and an unbelievable story at that. All right, we're going to do the speed round here because I know you could handle it. This is kind of like the skills competition here at the All-Star game in hockey. Actually, no, it has nothing to do with that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you something. I want the first thing that comes to your mind. These are things that lift you up, motivate you, make you feel good, basically make you thrive. Ready to roll?
Absolutely.
Okay. A song of late that pumps you up or you love to listen to.
I don't know of late, but anything AC/DC, I feel like just elevates my mood. Goes back to the hockey locker room days. So you can't really beat that for me.
I always love, I've been to a lot of Rangers and Knicks games, and I always joke about the fact that the soundtrack would never get mixed up between those two games. You have true hard 80s rock and roll in the hockey games and hip hop music for the basketball games. It's like two totally separate libraries that do not cross in that universe, but I totally get the AC/DC. A favorite food that's not a dessert.
Probably steak, like a really, really well-cooked steak with some portobello mushrooms and just, yeah, I don't think you can beat just a really well-cooked steak.
I like it. Favorite dessert.
I grew up thinking cheesecake was probably the most disgusting thing in the world. And I had my assistant cooked me some lime cheesecake, and it was unbelievably good. I'm a pretty big cheesecake fan now.
I'm glad you made the turn. An activity you wish you did more of?
Probably golf. I find that golf is a really, really good way. And I think for all entrepreneurs, they need to find a thing that they can disconnect and that it requires so much focus and attention that it pulls them out of their CEO seat. And I find that if I golf, I can't think about work. Same with sitting in a sauna. And so to me, just finding activities that pull me out of being able to triage any problems in the company or my clients' problems is probably really, really healthy for me because it allows me to be fresh at my time when I need to problem solve.
John, you need to know this. I've played golf with a lot of professional hockey players, and it is like the most pride swallowing thing off a tee box. You guys know how to be on skates and turn and use your hips to hit a puck 100 miles an hour. Hitting a golf ball that's sitting on a tee that's not moving for you guys is just ridiculous. And your hip turns. Hockey players hit the ball very far, by the way, guys. Don't ever try and do a long distance driving thing with any hockey player, ever. I'm imagining the same is true for you. True? You're a pretty long hitter, I'd imagine.
Yes, I would say my 3-wood goes about as far as most people's driver.
As I said, hockey players, do not bet against them on the tee. If I could snap my fingers Actually, let's go to this one. An activity you wish you did less of.
Email. I just brought on an executive assistant 2 weeks ago. So I would say I've worked really, really hard to answer that question a lot more and be okay with it. I think growing up, you're supposed to, in the early stages, you do kind of everything and become that utility player. And that's allows you to get successful in the early stages. Being okay with saying, look, this stuff is just not my wheelhouse. I grew up with a little bit of ADHD and dyslexic. So I don't type well. I speak fine. I'm totally cool with being on stage. I'm very visual. I'm not great with my words, like typing them out grammatically. I think faster than I can type. So honestly, a lot of those things, but email is something that if it got deleted and I never logged in ever again, I'd be okay with it.
If I snap my fingers and you can go anywhere in the world, John Swanson, where are you?
We'd be back down in Aruba. We take a family trip there every year with our kids, and it's amazing. It's beautiful. I get zero from this, from the Arubian government, but I just getting to watch my children experience those types of memories just makes you feel so good as a father. And it's something that makes me extremely happy. And I think that's where I would love to spend, not every day, but a good 10 days down there with the kids is really awesome.
John Swanson, CEO of Wendell. So much fun to have you on Thrive Loud today. Thanks for coming on, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. And to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Head on over to Spotify, Good Pods, or wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe and listen to all of our incredible episodes. Follow Lou at Thrive Loud everywhere on social media, and head on over to thriveloud.com to connect directly to Lou and learn how you and your business can thrive loud too. Thanks for listening.